Film critic Roger Ebert, let's chat. I can buy a $1,500 digital video camera, a $1,500 computer, and I can make movies.
That's a quote by me.
From what? You and a lot of people.
Okay, I guess it's not original with me. I realized at Sundance 3 or 4 years ago that it now costs about $3,000 to get in the movie business. And last year was even more revolutionary because Richard Linklater showed Waking Life there. Now the key thing about Waking Life is, if you go out with your $1,500 camera and you shoot a digital movie on it, it's going to look to everybody in the theater like you shot your movie on a $1,500 video camera. It's going to look like Blair Witch. And people are going to look at it and think it looks like exactly what it is. And what Linklater did, he shot the whole story of Waking Life, and then he and Bob Sabiston, who was his software guy, animated the whole movie using the work of 40 different artists and turned it into an animated film that can play in any theater in America and hold the screen and look like a real movie. And they did this with Macintoshes rather than with Sun Microsystems workstations.
So we're still not exceeding our $3,000.
We are not exceeding our You can do it on the new iMac, for example. So what they did basically was they showed independent filmmakers how to use home computers and amateur cameras in order to make an animated movie that can compete successfully with any movie in any theater. This is really the most important breakthrough, because what animation does is it elevates the material, it adds a sharpness and color to it that video by itself can't have. And it's really revolutionary. The fact that that movie wasn't nominated for one of the animation Oscars really devalues the whole category, because it shows the people making those nominations didn't know what they were talking about.
Certainly it's revolutionary, it's democratizing, but is it really going to have any sort of an impact on Hollywood?
Yes. Will have an impact on Hollywood? I don't know. What does have an impact on Hollywood that grosses less than $300 million?
Is it going to have
what it does is, let's say you're an independent filmmaker and you want to make an animated film. Until now, you didn't have enough money to make a 90-minute animated film because it was too labor-intensive and too expensive. Now you can do it. You can do it by rotoscoping, basically. In other words, you film live-action actors doing it, and then you elevate it into animation using this technique that Linklater and Sabiston developed. And then what people see when they go to the theater looks like a completely professional animated film.
How about distribution? Are we ever going to see people watching movies on the internet because they can?
I tried it again the other day. About 3 years ago, I wrote a column in Yahoo Internet Life magazine, doubting that I would ever want to look at a pay-per-view movie on the internet, even if it was free. In those days, we were still at the stage of the little postage stamp that renewed 12 times a second. And I was still probably had an ISDN line. Now I have DSL, and the new programs like QuickTime and Real Player have gotten to be a lot better. And when I go to the QuickTime movie trailer site, you get really good sound and a really good picture. It's only still about this big, but it's good. So I thought, well, I'm going to write a new column about this, and I'm going to go online and look at a movie. So I go to the legitimate movie sites where you give them a credit card and you can look at the movie. They don't have any movies that anybody would ever want to look at. They have movies that aren't ready for video. It's like the back shelf of the fire sale in the Blockbuster discount mall outlet is the kind of movies they have. So I couldn't even find a movie that was interesting enough that I wanted to look at it. I finally looked at some movie, and it was, I don't know, it was a Tom Mix Western. So right now, I think they have the technical part of it better solved than the supply part. Now, presumably, 3 or 4 major studios said last year that they were going to get together and start selling movies over the internet so you could view first-run films. And I guess they're still working on their front ends or their delivery or something, because the major studio movies are not available yet, except, of course, illegally.
But do you think people are ever going to do this? I mean, just physically watching a movie on your computer, which most people associate with work, that's not enjoyable.
It depends on the circumstances. I love computers. I have the Apple
Cinema display
at home. But yet, when I look at a movie, we have a movie room. I have a big screen, I have an overhead projector, and that's how I look at the movie. Or if not that, I go sit in front of the television set. I don't sit in an office chair at my desk to look at a movie. On the other hand, let's say I'm writing an essay on a great movie, which I'm doing a lot these days because I have a whole book of them out. I look at the movie maybe in a movie theater, maybe at a film festival, maybe with a great DVD, and then when I'm sitting at my desk, I have the DVD in the computer, and I can open a window next to my copy, and as I'm writing, I can refer to it and get the line right or get the scene right. One of the funny things about reading old film criticism before 1979, when home video came in, is that frequently you'll find even the best critics describing phantom scenes or misquoting dialogue because they don't have the print in their hands. They've seen the movie 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or last week, but they do not have the movie at hand. And now with DVD, you've got it right there inside your computer with you.
Do you think that the kids who are growing up today, surrounded by technology, being sort of nursed by the internet, do they have a greater visual and aesthetic acumen?
They have a greater technical acumen. They know how to hook up the wires, how to run the program. They know all the keyboard shortcuts. They have all the patches. They've downloaded all the upgrades. That they've got figured out. The artistic vision is something that some people have and some people don't have, and the kids are not, like this mystical theory that the kids, somehow have absorbed this out of the atmosphere. Some kids are artistic and some kids are not. Some kids can look at a picture and say that's harmonious and balanced and attractive or interestingly asymmetrical. Another kid will say, wow, look, it's Tobey Maguire, he's going to play Superman or Spider-Man.
So some of these kids who might be making movies, putting them out on the internet, do you have any advice for the distribution over the web? And also, do you have any advice just how they should go about making digital video so that they look good?
Well, how to make digital video to look good is the same problem as how to make a movie look good. And basically, you shoot a lot of movies, and you get better. Robert Rodriguez shot 800 home movies before he made his first theatrical film. But distribution of short films is not a problem if it's a good film, because you have places like iFilm and Atom Film and Yahoo Movies and the QuickTime sites and so forth, or your own site, and you can have QuickTime on it or something. So you can go to a lot of places on the web to see short films, and a lot of people do. I don't know that anybody has had a whole lot of success distributing feature films on the internet yet. Technology is in place, the sites are there. Nobody is very excited because it's an unsatisfactory way to look at a movie for 2 hours.
Have you ever gone to the internet, watched a movie, whether it be long or short, and said, yes, that is definitely a thumbs-up film?
That 405, I think it's called, the movie about the guy in the car who looks in his rearview mirror and sees that an American Airlines plane is about to land on top of him, and he's stuck behind a little old lady in a station wagon. That was a great... What happened was the material took over. It was so well done that I was not thinking I'm looking at a movie on the web. I was just caught up in the experience of it. And I've seen some other short films like that on the web that are funny. For example, Young George Lucas, which is a very famous web film. Oh, there's a film called Truth in Advertising. Have you heard about that?
Is that the one about the Newport cigarettes?
No. This is a Canadian film. It's not that short. It's about 12 minutes long. It's about a day in the life of an advertising agency, and it starts with the pitch to the client, and then they have the team, the creative team meets, and so forth. And the twist is everybody says the literal truth. Everybody says exactly what they're thinking. So that, for example, one of the members of the creative team turns to the person next to him and says, I want to sleep with you. And then the other person says back, Not in your wildest dreams. You're the most disgusting man I've ever seen.
You know, I have seen this movie,
Yeah,
and that just
yeah.
triggered my memory.
And then a little bit later, the boss sticks his head in and says, hello, I'm the boss. I'm completely idiotic, and I have nothing to contribute to this meeting. I'm just sticking my head in the door in order to interrupt your train of thought and to show that I'm powerful enough that you'll have to smile and nod at me. And then it cuts to all the people, and they're all saying jerk, you know, and a-hole, you know. And then a little bit later, they get the director on the phone, and he says, well, now, I'm a complete failure, and everybody knows that I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. I haven't been able to get a feature off the ground in 10 years, but now I'm going to use some terms like German expressionism, just because I know that you don't know what they mean either. And then I'll hang up because I have to go sniff some cocaine off a stripper's tits, you know. I mean, it's a very funny movie because it's just all the literal truth. And that's another great experience on the web.
So they do exist. Now, you're a very hardcore, shall I say, Mac advocate, right?
Yes. As far as I'm concerned, life is too short to use a PC.
Why do you feel that way?
Why? Because it's not as good.
Why?
Why isn't it as good? It's not fun. It crashes all the time. It's kludgy. It's aesthetically displeasing. Everybody uses it, which is a real good argument against it. It was ripped off from the Mac in the first place, so that's not fair. It's a third-rate Mac wannabe. The Macintosh continues to innovate. I mean, this is my iPod right here. I have 1,000 songs in this. It's only 4 months old, but now they have a new one out that'll hold 2,000 songs. This weighs 6 ounces. This is wonderful. The new iMac, which we have at home, the bowling ball. Put the screen anywhere you want. It's very fast. I can burn DVDs. I can also burn DVDs on my other desktop at home. I've got iTunes. I can download music from the web and put it in my iPod. I've got a home video camera. I've got a Sony. I can load it into the Mac. I can edit it with iMovie, a program so simple, iMovie 2, that they don't publish a manual because they claim any idiot can look at it and see how it works. I mean, even something like loading a program into your computer. You know, on a Macintosh it says, put the CD into the drive, you know, and drag this folder onto your hard drive. Then you go over to Windows, and it's like a manual for landing on Mars. And so, essentially, why take a system that is kludgier, more crash-prone, less fun, inelegant, and essentially phony, and prefer it to the most wonderful operating system on Earth, which has only been improved on through Mac OS X.
So why doesn't the Earth understand that? Why do 90% of the people not use it?
The fact of the matter is that in the world that we live in, 90% of the people make the wrong choice in everything. And I know that as a movie critic. I got a call once, 25 years ago, at the Sun-Times. We lived next to the Wilmette Theater, and they're playing a movie called Cries and Whispers. What can you tell us about it? And I said, well, I think it's the best movie of the year. And the reader says, oh, that doesn't sound like anything we'd like to see. You see. Well, that reader is also probably a Windows user. Mm-hmm. The fact is, most people drive an ugly car. Most people eat in restaurants where the food isn't any good. Most people go to bad movies. Most people watch primetime television. And most people have Windows because most people don't respect themselves enough to do something that is aesthetically pleasing to themselves at the time. They just want to be part of the dominant demographic group.
Mm-hmm. You got strong feelings.
There has never been a recorded case, as far as I know, of anyone who had a choice between Mac and Windows and chose Windows.
I'm going to throw that one to our audience.
And I've got another one I'm going to throw out there. Why is it that when you go to a company and you want them to use a Macintosh operating system, for example, our little show, Ebert and Roper, we have 9 people working on our show. All 9 of our people use Macintoshes at home.
Including Roper?
Including Roper, who has the G4 Titanium.
See, I thought this might
laptop.
be
No,
Ebert versus
Roper has very good taste. They all use Macs. Okay, so we move over to ABC, and they say, well, now you have to have Windows in your office. And we say, well, we'd rather have Macs in our office. No, you have to have Windows. Why? Because Mac isn't compatible with the local area network. To which the answer is, Yes, it is.
Talking 802.11b, the airport?
You got it, yes, of course. Well, that's your own area network. I mean, Mac is the only one that has airports, so you can make your own network.
Sure.
But we're talking about the whole ABC building,
Okay.
where everybody's on Windows, and it's not compatible. The fact is, yes, it is. So you're talking to the tech guy. Now, what is the tech guy? What is his buried agenda? He has two buried agendas. Number one, he only knows Windows.
That's all he's certified in.
Yeah, he only knows Windows. Number two, he knows he's out of work if they install Mac. Because you need one technician for every 40 Windows machines and one technician for every 250 Macintosh
So it
machines.
sort of bleeds into conspiracy
Yes.
theory at this point.
No computer, I'm going to say this to the people at home who are purchasing agents, no company computer guy is going to recommend Macintosh because it puts him out of work, because he's not needed, because it doesn't crash, because it's easy to set up, because it networks itself. Therefore, this guy's going to say it's not compatible. Now, you tell him in front of his boss, yes, it is. Now, what have you done? You've made him look like a dunce. He knows it is. He's lying, and he knows he's lying. Now he's so mad at you that you'll never get a Mac in the door. And so our entire staff is cursing these Windows machines. They sit there banging on the keyboard and saying, why, when there was an intelligent operating system, am I forced to use a stupid one? I mean, every day up and down the corridor, they're cursing at these machines they don't want to have. And meanwhile, people are saying, oh, the whole world is Windows. Well, the whole world is Windows because people are forced to use Windows machines. Nobody given a free choice would ever use anything but a Mac.
You're making me feel like a stupid, inferior sheep right now, because I use a PC.
Come on, have you ever used a Mac?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I must admit, I'm kind of Mac curious.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do like it.
You do like it?
Yeah.
Does it look better?
It looks better.
Does it make more sense? Is it more
I
intuitive?
don't know about that. It's not more intuitive if you've always used a PC, which I always have.
Well, let's say you were looking at the screen and you didn't know how it worked. For example, I never had a lesson on a Mac. I just started using it. My secretary just started using it.
So
My wife just stared using it.
So it's intuitive that if I want to eject a CD, I should drag the CD to the trash can.
Yes, or go to the to the menu and click on eject. That would also be a clue.
Or press the button on the PC.
On the new iMac, there's a little button with an arrow, and if you push
that, I'm glad
it
they've gotten
ejects
that
it,
far.
and there's a little sticker next to the arrow that says, push this to eject CD.
Rah, Steve Jobs. That was a good move.
Okay.
I'm glad he did that.
Right.
You say in your bio that cyberspace is one of your hobbies. How
Yes.
do you move through cyberspace?
I move through cyberspace as a tool. It's an extension of myself. It's like a hammer and nails. I use it all the time. I'm a road warrior. I'm on the road. I have to write all the time for the Sun-Times and for other places, and I have to get email, and I have to send and receive faxes. What amazes me is not that the fax machine still exists, but that the fax machine is still bound to a physical location. I use JFax and faxaway.com. I have a JFax fax number. I give it to people. They say, I want to send you a fax. I say, fine, here's my fax number. As far as they're concerned, that's all they need to know. It's my fax number. They send a fax. They have the fantasy the fax is coming out in some room of my house. The fax goes directly to my email account. It displays on the screen of my computer. If I want to print out, I send it to the printer if I'm at home, or to the hotel fax machine if I'm in a hotel. Why in the world? You see, the advantage of email is I can send you an email without knowing where you are. With JFax, I can send you a fax without knowing where you are. But people don't want to know that. You see, they still want to think that they put the piece of paper in at this end and it comes out at the other end. You know, it's like the probably apocryphal grandmother who says, it didn't work, honey, because it's still here.
That was my mom, actually.
That was your mom. The fax didn't work. It's still at this end.
That's right. But the way you're describing...
So I use email all the time.
But all these things you're talking about, that's as a tool.
Yes, it's a tool.
It's not really a hobby.
No.
I don't consider a tool a hobby. How do you use it to have fun?
How do I have fun? Well, first of all, I engage in conversations with a lot of people who are email buddies. Both people I know and actually people I don't know. I write a bi-weekly column called The Movie Answer Man, and he has his own address, answerman@suntimes.com. And I get about 200 or 300 messages a day, which you go through, you know, you glance, delete, until you get to one you want to read, because half of them are, you suck, or please do my homework for me. Or what is the name of this movie that I'm not going to be able to describe to you, and you've never seen it, but I want you to tell me all about it. I mean, I listed 10 rules for the answer man on this site, saying these are the rules. Do not violate these rules. No, I will not make a list. No, I will not try to identify for you some movie that I used to. No, I won't say why I gave one movie 3 stars and one movie 3.5 stars. No, 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 I will not explain why I have not reviewed a movie. People think I'm some kind of a machine. If I miss a movie, I'll get emails. Why didn't you review Resident Evil? That's an example, because I did review it. And to which I want to have a macro to send back, it's none of your damn business. You know, why did you write this email? That's another good question. You know. So anyway, then there are wonderful, invaluable emails that I get. You know, because of this system, anything that's in a movie or any issue that comes up, somebody's going to notice, and they're going to mention it to me. Somebody sent me an email. Godfather's been out 25 years.
More than.
I got an email 4 months ago from somebody who says, when Sonny is at the Godfather's, when Michael Corleone is at the Godfather's funeral, and he stands up, you can see a woman's ghostly face on his black blazer jacket, his black suit coat. I go to the DVD, I can't see it. I write back to the guy, I said, you're imagining things. He says, no, you can, but you have to do it a frame at a time. I go through a frame at a time, and suddenly, on one frame, I see this reddish image of a woman. It's there. So I sent an email to Francis Coppola. He has his tech guy look at it. Tech guy comes back, there is an image there. It turns out it was an after image from, it's actually Michael's mother, who's sitting right next to him, and it was burned in through some kind of there's a long technical explanation for what happened. But what's amazing is, this movie's been out for 25 years, it's been on DVD for 5 years, and this kid spots it. It had never been spotted before, and the answer man got a letter, and so now it's been spotted. Now, of course, the significance of the fact that it's been spotted is debatable. And you realize, I'm sure you realize this, because with your audience of fanatics and crazies, you know there are people, when they get a DVD, after they've looked at it 6 times, listened to the commentary track, looked at all the extra features, looked at the deleted scenes, read the production notes, then they just kind of relax and go through it one frame at a time.
I know. That's exactly what I did with Pootie Tang.
I'm sure you did, yes. That's the only way they could have found that. Like, these movies are subjected to minute analysis. And so that's one way I live in cyberspace, is I live vicariously through the eyes and ears of all these people who have nothing better to do with their time than to stop frame through an entire movie. And so, they do it so I don't have to. And so that's fun. And then there are all kinds of websites I go to all the time to check in. And I usually lurk. I've learned my lesson about getting involved in forums and on the Usenet. And that is, if I log on as myself, nobody will believe it's me.
Exactly. I know what you're saying.
No matter what I say when I contribute to a thread, the answers are all, are you really Roger Ebert? Or you're not really Roger Ebert. Nobody in the email address may be something like rogerebert@hotmail.com. It isn't, but it could be. If it is, everybody knows that somebody else got himself that email address. It could not possibly be me.
You should log in as Reverend.
On the other hand, when I search the Usenet occasionally for Roger Ebert, which I'm sure everybody does, you've Googled yourself, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, okay. But I search it, I find all kinds of messages from complete strangers that are claiming to be Roger Ebert. And everybody believes them. They will not believe it's me, but if somebody logs on with some, drunken raving, then everybody believes that's got to be me. So that so the only way to do it for somebody with a recognizable name is to lurk. You can also go on under a pseudonym, but then you can't account for the knowledge you have. Well, my name is John Q. Smith, but I happen to know that Roger Ebert did see that movie, and he wasn't wrong about that review. I mean, that doesn't work either.
Let's talk about the changing pace of technology.
Okay.
If technology, and specifically movie technology, continues to go forward at its current pace, where do you think the movie business is going to be in 10 years?
It's going to be in the doghouse. It's going to be terrible. If they advance at the pace they're advancing now, the movies will probably be destroyed in 10 years because we'll have digital projectors in every theater and nobody will want to go to the movies. The movie industry thinks it's going to digital. George Lucas thinks the movies will be shot on digital, and a lot of people believe that digital projection is going to replace projection through celluloid. It's probably not going to happen for the reason that right now it costs between $125,000 and $150,000 per theater to install a digital projector. But let's say they could do it for $12. Would it still be a good idea? No. Digital projection is not as good as film. The D word, digital, is the magic word that buffaloes everyone. I was told by Texas Instruments, I had a debate with them out at the Show West. Oh, well, we showed a Star Wars movie on celluloid for $8 and on digital for $9, and more people went to the $9 show. And I said, of course they did. If you had shown celluloid for $9 and digital for $8, more people would have gone to the celluloid show. Don't you know anything? And then when they came out, they said they preferred it. And I said, to what? They only saw one movie. I mean, they've got all of these surveys that demonstrate nothing. If you look at digital and celluloid, well projected, side by side, digital is not as good. And you've got half the world, or even 3/4 of the world, telling you it's better because they feel that digital must be better. But it's not better. There's also no delivery system. They would have to compress 40-to-1 to bring it down from a satellite. Right now they're at 6-to-1. When they get the compression figured out, they're going to beam it down from a satellite to a footprint consisting of every hacker in North America. No encryption system has ever been devised that hasn't been broken. This company over in Germany had a 50,000 mark prize to break our encryption. It was broken by sundown of the day the contest started.
So what does Hollywood have to do?
Hollywood has to
piracy?
move. Hollywood, well, I mean, if they can perfect digital and get it to be better, that would be interesting. But then you run up against another peculiar problem. Hollywood and the movie industry in general and the studios and the companies like Eastman Kodak and so forth and so on have not spent one dime on research about how digital as opposed to celluloid enters through the eyes into the brain. There is a theory that movies create a reverie state and that digital video creates a hypnotic state. Television creates a hypnotic state. This is why people are wary of long movies but are able to watch television for 6 hours at a stretch. If a movie is 2 hours and a half long, people will say to me, oh, I hear it's long. And I'll say, the ticket price is the same. What are you complaining about? Oh, I heard it was 2.5 hours long. Nobody has ever said, I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl. It's going to last all afternoon.
Well, that's because people get up and they go get some chicken wings. They go to the bathroom.
There you
they're
go.
sitting in the theater. They can't go to the bathroom. If they want to smoke a cigarette, they can't do that.
That's all true, but that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, which is that television is hypnotic. It is. Read a book called 4 Arguments for the Abolition of Television by Jerry Mander, a man with a very unfortunate name. It's an interesting book. It's about this. It's about this very thing. People believe that celluloid comes in through the right brain and video comes in through the left brain. They're processed differently. My opinion is that movies are a dream state, whereas television is more of a buzz state. And I say this as somebody who makes a living being on television. It's my fear that if celluloid is replaced by digital, they'll throw out the baby with the bathwater. I believe why do people go to the movies? Why do they spend $10 and leave their house and go out and park their car and go to all this inconvenience to sit in a theater and look at a movie when they can see all the movies they want at home for free or for a few bucks? It's not just because they want a night out on the town. It's because they're getting something in that theater that they can't even put a finger on, a reverie or dream state. Their mind is addicted to, or at least is attracted to, the feeling and psychic experience of watching light through celluloid, which for some magical reason impresses us in a certain way. in a way that digital does not.
You realize this sounds crazy, that it's going into your brain in a different way. I don't think it has anything to do with what medium it's printed on, whether it be celluloid or digital. It has everything to do with going to a place, into a darkened room with other people, the lights go down, it's sort of magical.
You know, that's right. That's why there are so many theaters where they show high-quality DVDs to audiences, and they're so eager to pay to see them. Why aren't there?
I don't know, because it's not tradition.
Okay, it isn't, no. I've got a better answer for you. A celluloid picture is really there 24 times a second. The whole picture, really there, physically, all there. A video picture, if you watch television, it's never really there. It's always in the process of becoming there. If your eyes could look fast enough, if your brain could perceive fast enough, you wouldn't see a picture, you would see a photon moving back and forth, painting a picture. Now, the mind, and putting that together and making it into a picture, it's a semi-hypnotic process in which the picture is always in the process of becoming. When you go to the cinema, the picture is really there, which is much more restful. That's why when you see a movie, you feel a more completed feeling afterwards, and after you watch television for a while, you feel nervous and on edge, a little bit worked up, a little bit wired, because you haven't been allowed to get into a reverie state.
It's because you're watching a bunch of crap, usually.
That's also important. Now, here's what they here's what they should do, okay? First of all, your viewers should go to a site called mv48.com.
MV48.
Yes, that's for Maxivision 48. Okay. On the one hand, we have digital projectors. They cost $150,000. The technology isn't there to make them practical. The projectionist who can repair the projector if it breaks down is going to have to be replaced by a computer guy who's paid 4 times as much per hour, because when a computer goes down, that's serious. Okay. On the other hand, you have celluloid, which is in every theater in the world, and everybody understands how it works. And a movie that was made 100 years ago can be played today. And 16 million theaters in India use it, and so forth. Okay, so it's universal. Now, how can we improve on this universal system? Dean Goodhill, who was one of the editors of The Fugitive, has invented a system called Maxivision 48. It's a new front end for the existing projector in the movie theater. The front end costs about $10,000, although they will lease it to you. It will show movies at 48 frames a second, which is twice the current 24 frames a second. It finds the real estate for 48 frames a second by doing away with the analog soundtrack, which is not used anymore because it's all digital soundtracks, by reconfiguring the real estate on the frame, and by moving and by shooting at a faster rate. Or if you use Maxivision Econo mode, you can shoot at 24 frames a second and save 50% of your film. So it's a cheaper thing if you do it that way. Okay. The front end that he has designed will project a movie at 24 frames a second, 48 frames a second, or any speed. It uses an electric motor that was designed by the same guys who made the motor that polishes the Hubble Space Telescope. These people in San Luis Obispo specialize in vibration-free motors, motors that do not vibrate at all. This motor pulls the film through the Maxivision projector without any jiggle, which is the jiggle caused by the take-up reel. Because there is no jiggle, it is absolutely rock solid, which also gives it an advantage in terms of clarity, because it's not going like this all the time. Also, nothing touches the film, and they use an ionizer to repel dust particles so the film doesn't scratch. Okay. Maxivision 48 is 400 times better than current celluloid projection in terms of clarity, color, depth, contrast, richness, and saturation. Not almost as good like digital, but 400% better at a cost of $10,000 instead of $150,000, and using existing technology and backward compatible. Now, it would seem that it's a very interesting invention, that people going to the theaters would be awestruck by how great it looks. I've seen it. It looks great. I was up there to look at it with cinematographers like Alan Davio, who shot E.T. He thought it looked great. There are people like Spielberg and Scorsese who are behind it. But there's no money in it. Is Eastman Kodak, which has made all of its money for 100 years on film, are they backing it? No. They're afraid their stock price will go down if it got out that they still like film. They want to reposition themselves as a digital company because all of the lame-brained investors out there, the same people that use Windows machines, want to invest in digital companies because digital is the future, even if in this case it's totally impractical, it's already been superseded by a better system, and it's the past, and it won't work anyway.
I think Bill Gates is probably behind this whole thing.
Well, I don't know who's behind it, but I'm telling you that this system is so good that if it were to come into being, it would revolutionize the movie business because people would go to a theater not to see a great-looking movie, but to see something that digital cannot even begin to approach. And it's practical, and it works with physical things. It doesn't work with chips. It doesn't work with programs that will be obsolete in 10 years. Because if you make a movie on digital today, what are the chances any program in the world can read it in 20 years? I know none of the discs that I made on my computers 20 years ago can be read by anything today. I've got Tandy 100 discs, I've got DEC Rainbow discs, I've got all kinds of discs, 3.5-inch discs and 5.25-inch discs, and I don't know what to do with them.
So you would think that Kodak would be staunchly behind this technology because they do make all their money with film, and this would preserve the use of film far into the future.
It's the curse of the D word.
Digital. The stock price would go down.
Everybody thinks digital it's just like the word for everything in the future. I told Dean Goodhill, don't call it Maxivision 48, call it Digivision 48, and you can sell it. And when they say, but this looks like film, it isn't digital, just tell them something like, oh, there's a chip in the motor. That would be the way to market it.
Did you see Final Fantasy?
Yes.
Do you think there'll ever be a time when CG can completely replace human actors?
It's useful in things like TV commercials, or somebody dies and they have to recreate them in order to get the movie finished. I liked Final Fantasy. I liked it a whole lot. I think the problem with it was that people either wanted it to be less real or to just be real. When we go to animation, in a way, we want it to be stylized. We want it to be elevated over life. So that to make animation just like life apparently met some resistance from the audience. Now, I liked it because you could take people who look like people and put them in situations that were impossible. You could have shots that couldn't happen. You could have worlds that couldn't happen. So I thought Final Fantasy was a success on that level. The story was a little bit hard to follow, but I felt technically it was a success, but the audience rejected it. There were certain places the audience won't go. I'll give you one that's related to the internet. Anime, which is Japanese animation.
Huge.
If you Google anime, you get about 100,000 hits. If you go to any video store in this country, including the smallest town, you'll find 200 or 300 anime tapes or discs. And they're all worn out from being rented. Because the Blockbuster in the middle of Arkansas doesn't have 600 Japanese animated films just to support the Japanese animation industry. They have a very good inventory system, and they only have them because somebody is renting them. So in this country, there is a huge, huge market for anime, but it's never broken through to movie theaters. Princess Mononoke was released by Miramax. They thought this is going to be the breakthrough film. It didn't do the business. Right now there's a fabulous movie out there called Metropolis, a Japanese anime that starts, it kind of kicks off from the silent classic and goes from there. It's a great film. I'm going to show it at my Overlook Film Festival at the University of Illinois. It's still in release, and it's already overlooked. The mystery that I can't answer is why the popularity of anime on video and on the internet has never translated to people buying tickets in movie theaters.
Why do you think that is? Last year, Dragon Ball Z, which is anime, was the #1 search for term on Alta Vista. Britney Spears was #2.
Isn't that interesting?
So why is that? Why won't it go over
well,
the movie theater?
You've really triggered me now because Britney Spears hasn't translated to theatrical either.
Well, I think we all know why that is. Can't act.
I don't know why it is. I have no idea why it is. I saw Princess Mononoke. I thought it was a great film. I don't know why people wouldn't go to theaters and see it. They're renting the heck out of it. I don't understand it. It's a mystery. I mean, we ought to get 100 anime fans into this room, and ask them if they've ever gone to see a movie in a movie theater, an animated movie, a Japanese animated movie. I don't know what the answer is. Apparently, if every anime fan in America went to the theater to see an anime film, it would do business. So apparently they don't.
Well, last question. Would you give this interview a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I do not give thumbs to anything but movies.
Is that a polite way of saying I
it's
suck
not.
as an interviewer?
No, it isn't. You're a very good interviewer. I will tell you you're a very good interviewer. I realized a long time ago that if I start giving thumbs up to interviews, hamburgers, pizzas, somebody's new shirt, there would be no end to it. So I only give thumbs up to movies. Like in my new book, The Great Movies. Now for sale in all your local stores.
Thank you very much.
This was fun.
Email me.
Okay, I will. Yeah, real soon.